I take part in the exact same morning routine every single day. I wake up, walk downstairs, sit on the couch, go back to sleep for another 2 hours, wake up again, make breakfast, eat breakfast, stare at a wall for an hour and a half while I question my existence, attempt making pancakes, squeeze a quick playthrough of Celeste in, pour myself a glass of water. This is a nightmare. I need to approach my morning routine in a different way. Throwing something new to keep me on my toes. That's why today I'm going to be attempting my entire routine blindfolded. Wish me luck.
We as video game players like to play video games. I mean, it's right there in the title. And when we find games we like, we tend to want to play them again. And 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 again. Okay, I at least need to change gameplay speed. There. Now it's stupid. Sometimes it's not enough to just play through a game again. Sure, it may be a great game, but just playing through it again may not be as exciting as the first 100 times you played it. Sometimes you need to throw in a little something extra to spice up your playthrough, if you know what I'm saying.
Gross.
This is the challenge run, a playthrough of a game with self-imposed rules to make things a little more interesting. These can vary wildly in terms of complexity, ranging anywhere from simply not dying once to using a damn Guitar Hero controller to beat Super Mario 64. Like, how do you even do that? Essentially, what a challenge run boils down to is, step 1, ask a stupid question.
Can I beat Pac-Man World 2 with half the screen covered?
Step 2, suffer for hours on end. Step 3, conclusion.
I played for 35 hours and couldn't make it past the first level.
It's a way to add more difficulty to a game you personally may find too easy. While a lot of games have difficulty select options, it usually just boils down to giving you less health, giving the enemies more health, or just giving more enemies. However, this is not only A, the lamest possible way to go about adding difficulty in games, but 2, not present in every single game anyways, which means you're going to have to add your own challenges.
This way you can add your own more interesting twist to a game. It may be completely arbitrary and may make the game more frustrating than fun, but hey, if that's what you feel like doing this week, then go ahead. If Mario's not going to give you a challenge, and you can force him to give it to you through sheer force of will, damn it.
There's not really a concrete origin of challenge runs. I mean, it's just trying to beat a game under certain parameters. They've essentially existed for as long as video games themselves have. Hell, you could probably trace challenges back to arcade games. With those, the main gameplay loop essentially is a challenge run. Since there's not technically an end to any of the games, the challenge is how high of a score can you get, or how long can you last? Although, if the challenge is to just play the game normally, then it's not much of a challenge run, is it? That's why we need to jump to home consoles. Since most console games have a definitive start and end, it becomes a lot easier to make challenges for them. For example, can you beat Super Mario Bros. Without jumping? No, but you could beat it without, say, collecting any coins, or defeating any enemies, or even just not dying.
And that's just the thing. A lot of challenge run categories actually apply to a bunch of different genres of games. Which makes sense when you think about it. I mean, a lot of games share similar mechanics. It's kind of like how there's no actual difference between the different kinds of gas. Diesel, unleaded, they're all the exact same thing. Whatever you fill your car up with, it's just depending on whatever you feel like.
Disclaimer, there actually is a difference. Do not put diesel gas in your vehicle if it doesn't take diesel gas.
So let's take a look at some more common challenge runs.
We already talked about no deaths, that's pretty self-explanatory. And this should be possible in every game. If it's not, then the death is scripted and is supposed to happen, or the game is broken. But taking that a step further is the no damage run, where you just simply don't get hit. There's the no collectibles or items or whatever your game has run. We also kind of talked about that. Just going through the game without getting any items, which actually may not be possible in some games, since some games you need to collect certain items to progress. On the other hand, you could do a 100% run where you grab everything. There's the pacifist or no enemies defeated run, just don't kill anything, again, not possible in every game. And then on the opposite end, you could do a genocide or defeat every enemy run, which also may not be possible in a lot of games, since a lot of the times, enemies will respawn after a while.
Half of these are just speedrun categories.
Which in and of itself is a challenge run too, just beat the game as fast as possible by whatever means necessary. Really, a challenge run could be anything, you just have to be brave enough to ask a question no one else would even think about. And then you have to be brave enough to actually put the effort in to see if it's possible. For example, is it possible to beat Sonic Forces without giving up on the Sonic franchise as a whole?
No.
Now, so far we've taken a look at challenge runs that encompass most, if not all, genres of video games. However, there are some broader scope challenges that only apply to specific genres. For example, platformers. While many vary in terms of mechanics and level design and dimensions and a bunch of other stuff, the one thing that they all have in common is running and jumping. So let's take that away. A lot of platformers have ways to move the characters forward aside from the D-pad or the left stick or whatever you prefer to control your games with. So then the challenge becomes, can you beat a game by only using those movement options? On a similar note, a lot of platformers have different ways of giving you extra height aside from jumping, so can you beat a game without jumping? Or you could try holding the crouch button the entire time, which can severely limit your movement. Or you can refuse to use one of the game's more unique mechanics and see how long it takes for you to want to snap the game disc over your knee. RPGs! Since there's a lot more freedom with how you approach the progression in these games, there comes a lot more challenge runs you can do. Like you could add permadeath. If the game has multiple party members, then if one of them dies, then they're dead, no revivesies. Or you could just take that a step further and beat the game with only one party member for the entire game. You could try going through the game without collecting any stronger weapons, you could ban the use of healing items, or items in general, you could ban the use of certain strong moves or spells or whatever, you could try going through the whole game without even leveling up your characters. The more in-depth a game is in terms of mechanics, the more options you have to take away from yourself. And then you could just pick and choose. It's essentially giving yourself a menu before you start the game and deciding on what features you want to be available and which ones you don't. Shooters! There's not really many challenges you could do with these, since there's not really many options in terms of movement or even just ways to beat the game. But still, you can limit yourself to just one gun for the entire game if the game gives you multiple guns to choose from. Better yet, you could limit yourself to the worst gun in the game. You could even just straight up limit yourself to one magazine for the entire game, no reloading at all. But at that point, you might as well just ban the use of guns outright and just stick to the melee attack if the game has one. Fighting games! Most fighting games have campaigns or story modes to play through, which means there technically is a beginning and end to these games. And with these, you could try limiting your moveset and try to beat the game without using certain moves, like beating Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's World of Light without the use of special moves, for example. And hey, if you don't want to play the story mode, you can always just go online, I don't care. If I run into you online and you decide you're playing stupid today and I beat you, I will still pop off like I just won the fucking lottery. Horror games! I don't know, can you play the game alone with all the lights off and the window shut and the volume turned all the way up?
I don't know, can you? So that's a somewhat comprehensive coverage of the main challenge runs and the genres of games that allow for them. Now, I know I missed a lot of genres, but that's just because it's not as easy to come up with challenges for them. Like, I know I missed racing games, but what's the challenge there? Can you win a race without pressing the accelerate button? I'm leaning towards no, but I'm going to put it down as a work in progress. But don't worry, we're not done here yet. We still haven't gotten into the bullshit.
Here we have the runs that very few people actually attempt because only a few people are actually brave enough to attempt them.
Did I say brave? I meant stupid.
Like beating a game blindfolded. Why? I mean, sure, it's kind of badass to be able to say you could beat Super Mario 64 blindfolded, but also, how much free time do you have, and why are you choosing to spend your free time on this? Do you know how much memorization this would require? You need to know the exact layout of all the levels, where all the enemies are, where all the pits are, where all the everything is, and then you need to be able to do everything perfectly and consistently perfectly so that when you put the blindfold on, you can rely on muscle memory. And think about it, if you mess up a move even a little bit, it would completely throw off your memorized path, and at that point your run is essentially dead. I respect the dedication that goes into it, but why? Or what about playing with unconventional controllers? I already mentioned the Guitar Hero controller, but on top of that, you could play with a Rock Band drum controller, or a Dance Dance Revolution pad, or the fucking Donkey Kong bongos for the GameCube. Hell, someone straight up just got Doom running on a pregnancy test. Why would you do that? I have no idea. It's Doom on a pregnancy test. You're not supposed to question it, you're just supposed to accept it. Or you could play a game with 2 people, not a 2-player game. I mean, have 2 people grab one half of the controller and control the game together.
Because when you hate fun, you might as well hate it with a friend.
And then we've got a couple popular game-specific challenge runs, with arguably the most popular being a Nuzlocke in Pokemon games. Essentially what this is just a bunch of regular RPG challenges thrown together with some Pokemon-flavored flair. But basically how these things go is, you're only limited to 1 Pokemon per route, you have to give the things nicknames so you become more attached to them, and there's permadeath. When a Pokemon faints, it's dead and you have to release it. But that's the general idea. You can add more rules on top of that to make it as hard as you want, but those 3 things are at the core of every Nuzlocke. And it's an incredibly popular way to play Pokemon games, so much so that I'm surprised there hasn't been a straight-up Nuzlocke mode added to the more recent Pokemon games. And then there's a challenge run that I personally think is hands down one of the coolest challenge runs out there, and that is the Super Mario Odyssey Minimum Capture Run. See, Mario Odyssey's main gameplay gimmick is to take control of enemies and use them to get past certain obstacles. Yeah, and I mean, it's fantastic, it's one of the coolest gameplay gimmicks ever, but naturally you look at this and immediately ask, but can you beat the game without it? See, no, but you almost can. People have gotten the minimum down to 3 captures, which is just insane. If you've played Mario Odyssey, then you know there are a lot of seemingly mandatory captures. But the runners have been exploiting glitches, clipping through the level geometry, abusing 2-player mode. The amount of optimization to get this run down to what it is crazy, and it is such a cool run to watch.
Now the thing is, and I brought it up earlier, most challenge runs just end up being speedrun categories. Because of course they do. It's not enough to just beat the game hard. No, you gotta beat it hard and fast. Gross! Challenge runs are absolutely insane to watch. Seeing people pull off crazy exploits to get around problems that didn't even need to exist is just so cool. It's just another example of people pushing games to their limits to see exactly how much is possible within the game. And I mean, I didn't even cover everything. There's mods and ROM hacks where you could go in and alter game to change things or add things and make it even more difficult. And it's crazy to see how people adapt to that. Challenge runs just stem from someone asking some absurd question, and then it just comes down to how willing are other people to find the answer to that. The amount of dedication needed to solve the mysteries that didn't even need to be there in the first place is incredible. And probably immensely painful. But hey, the definition of masochist does include getting enjoyment from pain, so as long as you're having fun.